Hi everyone, here's the quiz video for week 6 lecture 2. Update the code to sort the array from biggest value to smallest. So this is a selection sort. What we need to do is take the in this case the largest value after the first one and swap it with the first one, and we need to do that for the whole rest of the length of the array. So we're going to create a main method. I know it says to modify the code, so update the code, but the teacher used a sorting from smallest to largest, and he used also a lot of other stuff that we don't need for this question, so I'm just going to recode the whole question very fast. So we need an integer, an array of integer, we'll call it array, and we'll set it a length of 10. And now so instead of creating a new method to create this array, I'm just going to generate a random number from 1 to 1000 for every position of this array. I need to cast it because math.random generates a double. And here you can see that he added a +1, the professor added a +1 to make sure that we're between 1 and 1000 inclusively. Otherwise, we would be between 0 and 999, which is not what we want. So that's that. I can show you that we have generated an array by printing this array if I import everything I need. So let's go ahead and print this array. There we go. I can run this for you, and we have a problem. So, it could just be. Oh, sorry. There is no semicolon after the for loop. Sorry, guys. There we go. So I have a randomly generated array. Now I need to sort this array from largest to smallest. In order to sort this array, I'm going to create another method. And this is going to be a method of type integers. And why? That's because I'm actually wanting to sort this in a very particular manner. I want to sort this in a way where I want to find the largest number compared to the 0 position and then swap them. And I want to keep doing that. So this is what I want to do. So this largest has to take in an array of integers. Well, we can call it A. And it has to take in a position at which we're going to start at. We'll call that K. So the position at which it's going to start at is actually going to be 0. So for every position we'll call it largest, sorry. Largest is equal to largest when I send it array and I. So why I did this is because the first time around I'm actually going to need to take this I is equal to 0, and I want to send the position array and position 0. And once it has a position array and 0, what I wanted to check is if, so for an int, we'll say I is equal to k, I less than a dot length, I plus plus, I want to compare and see if the there is a position at I that is larger than the position at k. So my k in this case is never changing. It's always going to be the number sent from here, which in this case is going to be 0. Okay, and if there is, well then I need to change the value of my I to my k. Or sorry, my k to my I. So now my k is now holding the position, so the value of the position in which there is a larger integer than the position than the integer at position 0, and I'm going to want to return that position. So this returned position is going to be stored in the integer of type of the variable of type integer called largest. And then if there is a case such that there is a integer here that is larger than the integer of position 0, well then that position needs to be swapped. So in this case, position number 743 needs to be swapped with 541. So we need to send this to a swapping method, and this swapping method that we're going to create right now needs to return an array of integer. Okay, and it needs to accept 3 things. It needs to accept the array that we are swapping. It needs to accept the original variable, so the original position, and it needs to accept the largest position. And it needs to accept the largest position which we stored in largest. Of course, we have to declare them. And so here, and this method here is going to be returning the array. And this returned array, I want it to be stored in my original array. So meaning I want to overwrite the original array I have to store the now swapped array. So my original array here is now going to be equal to the swap when ran with array, I, and largest. And I can show you that it swaps by printing the array every time. There we go. Now we just need to make this swap method. In order to make this swap method, we need to create an integer t that's going to store the value of, the array at I. The array at I is going to equal to the array at the largest, and the array at the largest is now going to go ahead and take the temporarily stored value of the array at I and t, and then we're going to return array. Okay, so this just swapped this just swap the largest position with the smallest position, okay, or the position at which we're looking at. For the time being is 0. Now every time, so the first time around it's going to look at position 0, and it's going to compare all of them to position 0. Once this swaps to position 0, my I is going to increase, so it's going to become 1. And now I'm comparing all of them to position 1. Since I already put my largest position in position 0, I now need to compare my second largest position to position 1 and see if there's something larger. So in this case, if there's anything larger than position 1, in the first case 762 would be stored in position 0. In the second case, 743 is the second largest, and we need to swap that one with position 1. Okay, the third time around, okay, increment I by 1, I is now 2. We need to compare the second position, okay, with, in this case it was 541, so this swapped. I can run this for you really quickly and we can go through it line by line. Of course I have a problem. And why do I have a problem? That's a good question. Location, cannot find symbol, variable I. Right. My problem here is that since I stored my I into my K, so my I containing the bigger position after the position which I'm looking at, once I store it, I can return K. I didn't need to return I. And why wasn't working before here, it didn't recognize it because I is within the for loop brackets and the return statement is after the for loop brackets. So there we go, and we have it. So let's just go look at that really quickly. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So 759 is the first number we're going to be looking at. We're going to be comparing it. The second largest number is 590. The 759 and 590 swapped. Now we're looking at 271. 271, the second largest number is 870. So 271 and 870 swapped indeed. Then we're looking at 445. Anything bigger, we have 772, sorry. That seems to be it. So 772 is going to swap with 445, and indeed it happened. Now we're looking at 380. 380, the largest is 759. So 380 and 759 is going to swap. Now we look at that will be fourth position. Fourth position, keep going. The largest we see is 445. 445 swaps. Now we look at the fifth position, 427. 427, 380 swap. Look at the sixth position, 380. So 380 will now swap. Look at the sixth position. We'll swap with 343. Look at the seventh position. Swap with, I think I got my positions wrong. Swap with nothing. And then look at it again. There's nothing to swap. And there you go. So the array is now sorted from largest to smallest. If you want to do what the prof did in class, which is sorted from smallest to largest, you just need to change that to that. If you guys saw what I did, I'm right here. The only thing you need to do is, instead of saying is it larger, you need to check for something that is smaller than the position you're currently looking at. So every time I said now we're looking at the position, that is this value here that I incremented. So we're comparing that value with the value at I, which is keep on incrementing. Obviously when I is equal to K, nothing will happen, because nothing will happen. It'll just get out of this if loop go back to the for loop, increment I by 1, and now we can start searching. And only if I, in this case, is only if the position at I, so the position say at this one is larger than the position at this one, will it swap. And if not, then it stays how it is. And I return K. And K being the position of the largest value I have at this point. And then I send the position of my largest value here. And I stored that position of my largest value in my variable largest, sent it with the original position I was looking at to the swap method for it to swap, and I restored, and I rewrote my array as it was getting swapped. Okay, and now I printed my array every time so you guys can see it. That's it for the first question. The second question now asks us to update the code to sort an array of char. I just want to remind everyone that characters are in fact integers in Java. They all have ASCII values. I can look that up for you. ASCII table. So all we really need to do is find characters that are within the range of within the range of the variables defining a letter, or within the range of the numbers defining a letter, which in this case is 65 to 90. So the only thing we're going to do here to really modify this question, and we're also going to leave it from largest to smallest. I'm not going to put it from smallest to largest, or I could, I really don't mind here. Smallest to largest, there we go. The only thing I'm going to do is instead of allowing my arrays to accept random numbers from 1 to 1,000, I wanted to let it accept random numbers from 1 to from 0 to 25, and I'm going to be adding 65 to those values to make it go in the range of, as you can see, to make it go in the range of either 65 to 90. Okay, so as I said, this will now create random values from 0 to 25 inclusively, or you can say 0 to 26 non-inclusive. Okay, can't type. Sorry. There we go. So those are the exact same thing. Okay. And now, of course, if I add 65, so say the random value generated was 0. If I add 65, well then 0 plus 65 is 65, and I should get an A. If I take whatever the value between 0 and 26, if I add 65, I'm going to get a value that corresponds to a letter here. Now that that's done, it's going to sort my array the exact same way, so from smallest to largest in this case, I changed it. From smallest to largest. Once it finished here, once it finished printing my array, and that I know it's sorted, that'll just leave it for you guys to see. I'm going to create another array of characters this time around, and we'll call it array char. Okay, and that's going to be an array of the same length of the array we currently have. Okay, and now I'm going to need a for loop. Okay, that's going to go through all the positions from 0 to the array char.length. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say every position of my array char is going to be equal to the character value of my array at the exact same position. So what I mean by that is that as I said, as each position in my array is now a value that corresponds to a character from the ASCII table, in which case is a letter, because I limited my my range of values that I'm accepting. And if it is, well, now I want it, instead of printing the actual value in numbers and integers, I want it to print the actual character that it corresponds to. So I'm casting it in the character, and for every position of that I, so for every integer at position I of my array, is now going to print a character, which I'm going to store at the same position but in my array of characters. And now when I print line my arrays of character, it should work. There we go, and I'll show you what's happening. So same thing as what happened before, but this time around we sorted it from smallest to biggest, and then once it was sorted, we converted the actual integer, so the actual value, to its corresponding ASCII character. And since the array is sorted from smallest to largest, I know that my character of chars is also going to be sorted from smallest to largest. If I want to do it the first question from largest to smallest, I can do it. Same thing. I'm not changing at all what happened in the first part. I'm only changing what happens after my array gets sorted. I'm just converting those integer values into their respective ASCII characters, and I'm printing the ASCII character as opposed to printing the integer number. But just remember that in order to do so, you need to create this array of character in order to store each character into a position. Because you can't cast an integer, an array of integer into an array of character. That can't work. But you can cast the integer of every position into its character integer and then store that into an array of characters. That you can do. So I hope this helped. Good luck.